Hello and welcome back to another video in the Complete Web Development series. In this chapter we are building our React.js app, and we're just building an example to-do application. We're going to add a little bit more just for a little more repetition, where we're going to store contacts, just a very simple contact record. But the biggest thing that we're trying to do here is just learn how React works. We're going to get a little more experience using JavaScript and things like that. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and switch over to the screen here. And I have my terminal pulled up, and what we're going to need here is let's go ahead and check out what branches we already have. So we are on v6, so I'm going to go ahead and do a git checkout -b, and we'll do v6, and I'm going to do a git push -u origin v6. And now we are ready to begin work on this video. And what I want to do in this video is, you remember how in the last video we went ahead and created this Ajax helper file that gave us some functions to use. Well, we're going to start to need to submit forms, whether it be a login form or a registration form, or we're just adding to-dos. We're going to need to make API calls very easily with forms. And if you remember, if you go to app index where we left off, we have these field blocks for our username and password just right here on the screen. And we were using internal state here to manage that. And then we have an example JSON post here just to test out our Ajax. We're not going to need that. We're going to get rid of that. The other thing is I don't really want to I don't want to have to set this kind of stuff up every single time I set up a form and have a separate line for each setter and getter for each value in a form block. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to create a form class that we can import into any component that needs to use a form, and it's going to handle things such as like errors and do the Ajax call when you submit. If errors come back from the database, I want to go ahead and put the error messages into the form fields. I'll get a drink real quick. Okay, so just to be clear, we're not building any React components in this video. We're just going to build a raw JavaScript class that we can then use. So inside my helpers, I'm going to go to source helpers. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm just going to call this form.js. Now we could use some sort of library to handle our forms, but I'd rather just make a custom little class here that I can use. And so what we're going to need in this is we're going to need our functions that we created in the last video in the Ajax helper. So let's go ahead and import those really quick. Those were JSON post, JSON get, JSON patch, and JSON delete. Okay, and we're going to get those from our Ajax file, which is right here in the same directory. So we can just do a relative path there. Once we have that, let's go ahead and set up our class. I'm just going to do this in one line. We're going to export our class, and we're going to just export it as form. Now, again, even though we're doing a class here, this is not a React class. We're not going to be extending React.component or anything. This is just going to be a straight up JavaScript class. All right, so let's set up a few properties that we're going to need in this class. So let's do URL, fields, set fields. Let's do success and our method. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is set up a constructor so that when we construct this form, we'll set some stuff up. So we'll do constructor, and the constructor is going to take a URL, and this URL is going to be the endpoint that is going to trigger, or we're going to send this form to, and then we're going to pass in fields. We're going to pass in a set fields function. We're going to have a success function, and then I'm going to set up a default here, and we're going to set up the default method as post. So if we don't pass anything in, it's going to post to our URL. So then what we're going to do here is we're just going to do this URL is equal to URL, and this fields is equal to fields, which I don't have an S here, so let me add that. All right, and then we're gonna do this set fields is equal to set fields. This dot success is equal to success, and this dot method is equal to method. So that's it for our constructor. We're just basically going to pass these in here and use it in our constructor. Next thing that we want here is we want to have a map. So we're going to set up a method map. And I think what I want to do here is we're just going to say post is going to be JSON post. And I'll notice I don't have any sort of string here, and that's because we're actually setting these functions up as the value, okay? And then we'll do get, and that'll be JSON get, patch, JSON patch, and lastly we'll do delete, and that is our JSON delete method. So that was, once we have that done, let's go ahead and scoot on down here. And let's just add a couple setters so that if we need to, we can have methods to update these things. So let's do a set URL method. So set URL, and what we're going to do there is we're going to say this dot URL is equal to URL. And then we'll do a set method as well. And then we'll say this dot method is equal to method. Not 100% necessary. We could just set these, but I just add those for good measure. Now let's talk a little bit about what's going to be going on. So the way that I would like to do this is I want to pass in this set fields and the fields. Now these are just going to be state that we pass in, but I don't want to pass each individual field in separately. And I just want to have a set fields method that can update everything in there. And so in order to do that, let's see here. Let me pull up my thing here. So let's go ahead and just kind of create our fields, all right? So let's go back now to our app index. We're just going to use this as a building block. We're going to move this stuff later on to a different file. But what I want to do here is we're just going to set up fields and set fields. And we're going to use state hook here, and whatever we pass in to this parameter gets set as defaults, okay, on these fields. And so we're going to use that to our advantage. And what we're going to do here is we are going to pass in an object, okay? So just pass in an object, and then for each form field, what we're going to do is we're going to have a key. And then we're going to have that equal to another object. And inside of here, we're going to have value. We'll set that to an empty string. And then we'll have is invalid. And we're going to set that equal to false. And then we're going to have an error message. We could just do a message here. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do message. And we'll set that to an empty string. All right, and then we're going to set that up again for our password field. It's going to be the same thing. We have value, empty string, is invalid, false, and message is going to be equal to an empty string. I'm really bad about spaces. If you guys, that bothers you guys, you know, make your code a little cleaner if you want. I don't know, it's almost easier for me to see with them together. All right, so now we just have two form fields in this form. And so this right here, this whole object is going to be set to the state in a constant called fields. And then we're going to be able to update it with this function here, okay? So let's go ahead and import our form here. So at the top here, we're going to do import form from, and then this is going to come from our helpers /form. All right. So if we were going to go ahead and post this to our API endpoint to log in, let's just say this is our login form, then the way that we would use this is we're going to set up a constant called form, and that form is going to be equal to a new instance of our class that we created called form, and then we're going to set up our domain here. So in this case, it's going to be users /login. Okay, and then the second thing we're going to pass in is our fields. Now this fields right here could just be passed directly in there like that, and our third parameter is going to be the function to update those fields. So we already have that as well passed back from this use state, so we have it just like that. Now this is going to be a post, so I'm not going to bother setting a method up here. I don't need to do that, but what we do need is some sort of success that happens. So for now, let's just go ahead and call success like this dot, well, we can't do this, we could just do success like that. So in order, we need to go ahead and set up a function called success. So let's make that an async function called success, and that's going to take a response into it. And for now, let's just console log that response. So we'll make sure that we pass the response back from the API endpoint into the success method. So this is a callback function that's going to happen here. Okay, so that's how we want to use this. So let's go ahead and figure out, well, how do we go ahead and update these fields? Okay, so what we want to be able to do is we want to replace this value here, and let's go ahead and get rid of username and password. We don't need those in our state anymore. And instead what we're going to do is we're going to have a fields dot, and in this case it's going to be email or username. Yeah, let's do email. Well, let me, yeah, it's going to be email, and we'll do that dot value. In order for that to work, we need to change this ID here to email. So we have a value, it's fields, which will be here, dot email, dot value is going to be the value of that ID, okay? Then the on change, instead of using state here, what we're going to do here is we're going to type in form dot handle input changes. Now that's a function we haven't created yet, but when we click or we type anything into this field, we're going to use a method inside of our form called handle input changes that essentially is going to figure out what it's trying to update and update stuff. All right, we need to do the same thing for our password field, so let's just change that to fields dot password dot value, and then on the on change is going to be form dot handle input changes. Now we could kind of set this up by default with our field block. However, I don't think I want to do that because we may need to run another function sometimes. But for now, we're just going to leave this. And again, we haven't created this handle input changes yet. The next thing that we want to pass in is this is invalid. So on both of these, what I'm going to pass in is invalid. And here, what we're doing is we're going to do fields dot email dot is invalid. So this is now coming from our form fields. The next thing that we want to pass in is our feedback, and feedback is going to be the same thing. It's going to be fields dot email dot message. Okay, and we will do the same thing down here. So is, instead of setting that up hard coded, we're going to do fields dot password dot is invalid. And then for our feedback here, we need to get rid of that string, and we'll pass it in like this with a curly brackets, and we're going to say fields dot password dot message, just like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this, and let's bring up our server so we can see what we're doing. So right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm in my to-do here, and let's just run our npm start. And it should bring up localhost 3000, and it does. And here's our username and password. Now, there's a problem. If I start typing in here, this is not working. And in fact, if we click on the inspect here, we go to console, we have all kinds of warnings about our on change is required, and we're setting it undefined. Okay, we're going to take care of that right now. So let's at least get it back to where we had it before, where typing in these fields would work. So go back to the form.js, and let's go ahead and create that handle input changes method. And this is going to take, whoops, handle input changes. This is going to take in an event. So when you type a key press, that's actually going to trigger an event. And if you look here, the on change, you know, we just put in we didn't actually run it here. So it's going to run this every single time an event triggers through that on change. And we'll have access to the event there. So what we want to do is we want to find the key. So we say const key is equal to event.target.name. Okay? The next thing we want to do is we want to get the value. So we'll say the value is equal to event.target.value. Now this is just standard JavaScript that comes from the event here. We have the target, which is going to be the element, and then we have name and value there. So that's how we're getting that stuff. The next thing that we need to do is we need to create, we can't directly we don't want to directly update state or update this fields thing. That's not really something you want to do. It's immutable. So instead what we want to do is we're going to set up a new one, and we're just going to call it new fields is equal to, so it's going to create a copy of this dot fields. And then what we want to do is we want to say new fields, and we're going to pass in that key dot value, because remember here we set it up, the key is going to be email, dot value will be this, okay? So we're going to do dot value is equal to value. So that'll update the new fields here, and now we actually need to make the update happen on state. So the way that we do that is we use our set fields method here. So we say this set fields, and that's a function that gets called. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to use a destructuring syntax here. So we're going to use the curly braces dot dot dot, and then we'll say new fields. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to take the new fields, and for every key that's in there, it's going to set that up in here. Okay, so I don't have to like, otherwise what I'd have to do is I would have to go through, and every element I'd have to print it out in the set fields. But doing it this way, I can destructure this new fields, and it's going to set those fields equal to that. Okay, and that's it on that actually. So if I save that and we go back here now, if I clear these console logs, I still got a problem. So let's see, what is the problem there? First, let's see if this is working. I'm just going to console log the event here. And yes, we do get the event, and actually it is working now after a reset, except for it's not working on passwords. So let's figure out why password isn't working. ID is password. And that's because I have a typo in this handle input changes method there. All right, so if we type, both of these are now working again, and it is updating our form fields that are right here. So when we're passing this into this form and it's up running that, it's actually calling this and updating these fields right here in this file. So now these fields are the state that's being updated, okay? So then what's next? Okay, the next thing that we want to do is we want to start working on posting this data to our endpoint. So let's go ahead and create a submit form method. So we need some sort of submit button down here. And for now, I think I'm just going to put a regular button here. So let's do a button, and we'll give this a variant. Now these are the buttons that we created in a previous video. I'm going to give this one a primary, like this. And on the on click of this, what we're going to do is we're actually going to call a method on our form object called submit form, like that. So then the text here will just say log in. So let's save that now. We haven't imported button, so the button won't work. So let's go ahead and import our button now. And I think that we did that as a default. So import button from, and then we could do from components /elements/button. Now that we've imported that, we have a button here that works with a type of success. And now when I click this, we're going to get a problem because we don't actually have a method. We don't have a method yet called submit form. So let's go to our form now and let's create that, okay? So I'm going to create a submit form method. This will also take an event like that. And what we're going to want to do is the default event, if you're inside of a form for a button, is it's actually going to try to submit it. And so in order for us to stop that from happening, we're going to use the event.prevent default that comes with JavaScript. And now the default behavior of that event being clicked will not work, okay? It won't do it. The next thing I want to do is we're going to set up a disabled thing here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say if event.target.getAttribute, and that attribute is going to be called disabled, like that. And then we're going to say if disabled and disabled is equal to true, or, and we need to put this in a set of parens here. So what we're doing is we're going to say if disabled and disabled is equal to true, or disabled is equal to true, like this. Then we're just going to return here. We don't want anything to happen. That way they can't click the submit button over and over and it fire off a submit each time, okay? So we're going to disable that button. And then what we're going to do is if it gets past there, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do event.target.setAttribute, and we're going to set that to disabled to true, just like that. So let's go ahead and test that part first. This should be auto reloading. I don't know why it's not. So if I click this, you can see that, let's inspect it. I clicked it and now it has this disabled equal true. Now every time I click it after that, it's not actually going to do anything. And let me go ahead and refresh that and we'll just look at it. So now you can see that it doesn't say disabled, but as soon as I click it, it adds this disabled equals true attribute there to that element. Okay, so that stops people from repeatedly submitting a form. The other thing that we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to do a const response is equal to, and this is going to be an await. So we need to set this as an async await function. Now async await, this just, what this allows us to do is run this function synchronously, meaning I can do this await here, and this dot method map, okay, and then we're going to run this dot method, and we're going to pass this dot URL and our data into that. So what that's going to do is it's going to run JSON post, and it's going to pass this URL as the URL, and then data will get posted into it. Now we don't have any data yet, so above here, let's just do const data is equal to, and for now, we're just going to set that equal to an empty string, because we're going to need to parse these fields to get the data from there. Then we have this response right here, and what we're going to want to do is we're going to say, hey, if response.success, so if we get success back, then we're going to run a couple things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to run this dot success, and we're going to pass our response into it. Now that is going to run this function here because we passed that function into this form and it set it up, okay? So here we set this dot success equal to that success function. All right. So now we have this dot success and we pass in response to it. What we want to do is we're going to call a function we haven't yet created called this process form errors response. Okay. The next thing that we want to do here at the end is we're just going to go ahead and do an event.target.remove attribute disabled. That way we can submit again if there's form errors, we want to put those on the screen and allow them to fix it. And then we want to remove that disabled so that we can submit the form a second time. So let's save this now, and you know what, here in the data, let's just put a test right there, just to make sure that that's working correctly. And then we're going to have a problem, but let's go ahead and try it out. I'm going to go here to our network tab, and I'm going to make sure I have fetch XHR selected, just to look at our AJAX request. And I'm just going to put whatever in here because it doesn't matter. We'll hit log in there. And that is not doing anything. Let me refresh. There we go. I don't know why this isn't hot reloading. That's a problem. All right. So we got this login failed. If we look at it, the headers are going to be correct. We're passing to localhost 5000 users login. And our payload has that test in it. But of course it's failing to load the response data because we don't have our API up and running. So I'm going to open a new terminal here and I'm going to navigate to the API, and then I'm just going to run npm start on that. Once I do that, it's going to fire up our Node.js server. And now if I type something in here and hit login, let me refresh again. Now this is pending. Not getting anything back here. Let's go ahead and check that. Email has invalid undefined value. So yeah, we're just getting an error message that's not being handled correctly right now. And it's telling us that we got to pass in email. So what we could have done, what we could do is this. We could say email test, and I'll do password test. And now if we hit login, let me hit refresh because for some reason hot reloading is not working. Doesn't matter what I put in here for now. We hit that. Still not getting anything back. Let's find out why. Users controller.js. Let me just fire that up really quick. So I got a wasp in here. Oh, hang on guys. This wasp is attacking me. Let me get this wasp out of here really quick. He's probably sick of being trapped in here anyway. Oh, you guys get to watch me try to get the wasp out. Got him out. Sorry about that. Didn't want him to sting my head in the middle of a video, although that would have been pretty entertaining for you guys. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to open up the code here for our API, and I'm just trying to look real quick and see what I got going on here. So users login should run the users controller, which is right here, and it's expecting an email, password, you know what, I think the problem is that we don't have a database up and running. So let me make sure that we have a database up and running. Go back here, and I'm just going to type in sudo opt lamp examp start. I should have built this whole thing on Docker or something and given it out to you guys, but I didn't want to make it any more confusing or anything than it has to be. So we're just using examp because we already had that. I think we're going to have some more success now with this because yeah, now we're getting a 200, and we get our errors back. So yeah, it was just failing because our database wasn't up and running. So now we do get this error message that says something's wrong with your email and password. So we want to actually grab the information that they type into these fields and send that along. So let's work on that really quick. So instead of this data here, what we're going to do is get rid of that, and we want to call this.prepare data or something like that. We'll just say prepare for post. All right. So then let's create a method under here called we'll call it prepare for post. Like that, and this is going to be pretty easy. It's going to be a const data is going to be equal to an object, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use a for loop, and we're going to say for. Now we can do this syntax here where we do a const value. So we're doing a for of loop here, and we'll say for of object dot entries this dot fields. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to loop through each one of our fields, which look like this. The key is going to be email, and then the value will be this whole value, okay? So we need to extract the actual value out of that field. So in order to do that, scroll back down here, and we're just going to say data key is equal to value dot value, like that. And then here at the end, we're just going to return our data. So now that should be sufficient. Yep, that should work. So let's go ahead and refresh here. I don't know why I'm having to refresh. So I'm going to pass in this, and I'm going to pass in password here, and we'll hit login. And now you can see that our payload was equal to my email and password that I typed into my fields here. So that's working just splendidly. The other thing we want to do is now we have errors here. We have success false. So we haven't called our success function. So now you can see that, hey, it's trying to call the process form errors, and that doesn't exist yet. Because what's happening is it's saying, hey, is response.success true? Nope. Well, there must be some errors, so try to process those errors. So let's go ahead and create that function now, process form errors. And that's going to take the response back from the back end. And what we want to do here is, again, we're going to be updating state, because if there's an error, we want to set is invalid to true for the field that we get the error on, and then we want to set the message return from the back end into there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say const new state is equal to this dot fields, and then we're going to say response dot errors dot for each. So we're going to use a for each loop here, and we're going to pass into that the error. And then what we're going to do is, if you look at the way that this error is structured, it has a path and a message. The path is the key or the ID of the field, and then the message is a message that goes along with that. So what we can do now is we could say const key, and we're going to say the key is equal to the error dot path, and then our const message is equal to error dot message, and then we're going to say if new state dot has own property key. Then what we want to do here is we want to update new state key dot is invalid. We want to set that to true now to say that there is an error message, and then we're going to say new state key dot message equal to our message right here. Okay. And then what we're going to do is, outside of this for each, once we're done running the for each, we're going to do a this dot set fields, and we're going to set that equal to, we're going to destructure our new state object. Okay. So let's see what happens now if I do the same thing. I'm going to send the exact same post data, so we get this back. We'll hit login, and now you can see something interesting happen. We got this back, and it made that field red, and then this one also is red. So let's look at our network response here, and we have two of them. We got one back for email, and we got one back for password. Now I'm not sure why the message isn't showing up here for the username, so let's check that out really quick. Let's see, fields dot message or dot email dot message. Okay, and then is invalid, that worked. Let's see, let's go ahead and look at, it is invalid, so that's good. Here's our feedback. So our feedback for some reason on this is empty. Field block, feedback, fields.email.message. It looks right. Here's email. We got message and email. I guess let's check our field block and see if there could be something wrong with that. try it again. I'm gonna refresh here. Yeah, it's just not populating that. It's not populating this form feedback. The other one, the form feedback is populated. So I don't think there's a problem with our field block. I mean, that's working for the password. Ooh, this is actually a problem with the back end. This is a problem with the back end. So if you look right here, we have .message, and right here is the .msg. You guys probably caught that a lot quicker than me. So let me go ahead and fix the back end real quick. If you guys are following along, let's see. I think I have it pulled up already. Ooh, that is no bueno. So the login method here, let me save that. So this has to be message like that, and I'll push this. So by the time you guys get this, you probably don't have this problem. Let's try again. This should give us the errors back. So it wasn't with React at all. It was with my backend. Let me just, I will push that. I'll do it right now before I forget. All right, so let's do a git status, git add, git commit, fixing error message from Node. There you guys go. Push that on up. So you guys may say, if you've already pulled, if you're following along with the video series in real time, you'll just need to do a git pull to fix that. I think I just heard another wasp in here. I don't know what's going on with that. It's just starting to get warm outside. I think they're just coming in here to try to destroy me. Okay, so we have our process form errors. Let's go and check in our database and see if we have any. So if I go to localhost/php myadmin, I have our to-do. Let me find it here. API ref, API. See if I have any users in here. I don't have any users yet. So it's unfortunate because I was hoping, let me see if I have one in here. Yeah, so I could create one real quick with Postman. Yeah, I guess I'll just create one with Postman real quick. So let me see. I'm just gonna do this off screen. Or maybe I won't, I don't know. I got some kind of work stuff opened up over here, so one second. Let me close all that down so you don't see any sensitive information. 1 second. Let me pause the video so I can get something figured out here. All right, I'm back. I finally got Postman cleared up all my work stuff. Sorry about that. And what we're going to do here is I'm just going to make a call to localhost 5000 users, and then I think we called that register, but we can double check that. So we have the users update. Oh, we called it sign up, and it takes an F name, L name, email, and password. Okay, so it's not register, it's sign up. And we had a post on that. And then for body, we'll do raw. We'll do JSON. And then here inside of our JSON post, let's do F name. That was Curtis. L name, Parham. Email, curtis@freeskills.com. And that has to be also, these all have to be in quotes for JSON. And then we'll do password, and I'm just going to give it a plain text password of password. Send that. Oh, and I need one more, and that is confirm password, and that will be password as well. Send that, and there we go. Now I have a user in my database. So let's go and double check that. If I go here to my users, we'll go to browse, and I have a user right there. So now we should be able to log in. So let's try that. Curtis@freeskills, and the password is password. If I log in now, oh, you see I got a success true back. And now we have our token and no errors. So now you can see if we go to our console, it just took our response and it posted that response back to here. And this is what actually console logged that out. So our success function ran inside of our form right here. So that is exactly what we want. Now we do have a few more issues that we need to clean up really quickly. The first being, we need a way to clear errors. So you can see that right now I did that and we still have these errors here. So what we want to do is every single time that we post our form, so we run the submit form, the first thing that we want to do after we set our disabled attribute is we want to run a function called this clear form errors, like that. So before it makes another call to the back end each time, it's going to clear the form errors. So that's pretty easy. We need to go ahead and create that method. So clear form errors. This is kind of a long video, but we're doing a bunch of work here that's going to save us a ton of time in the future. So again, we're going to set our new state equal to this.fields, and then because we don't want to manipulate that field state directly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say for const key of object dot entries this dot fields. Then what we're going to do here is we're just going to say new state key dot value, oh I'm sorry, dot is invalid is equal to false. And then we're going to say new state key dot message is equal to an empty string. And what that's going to do is it's going to reset the is invalid to false and the message on all of our fields in that form. All right, and then all we need to do is we need to actually set the state. So we're just going to say this dot set fields. We're going to call that, and again we're going to destructure our new state, and that's 3 dots, not 2. Okay. Once we have that, we can go back now, and we should be able to just click this. Let me refresh again. All right, something is wrong. Curtis at free skills, password. And now you can see it cleared those error messages for us and console logged this. So that is good. The other thing we want to do is on success, we want to go ahead and we probably want to go ahead and clear those out so that these values don't stay here after this has already been successfully submitted. So we're going to create a function now called clear form values. Should be very similar to our clear form errors. We'll do const new state is equal to this dot fields, and then we'll do for const key of object dot entries of this dot fields, and then we're just going to say new state key dot value is equal to an empty string. All right, and then we need to actually set the fields with the set fields method given to us by the useState React hook. So we're going to use new state just like that. All right, so now we have a clear forms error, and what we want to do is in our submit form here is when it's successful, we're going to call this dot clear form errors, and we're going to call this dot clear form values, just like that. And let's test that out. All right, we got some form errors. And now it clears the errors and it clears our values and submits this back. Okay, I think we only need one more thing here in our form thing to be pretty complete. What we want to be able to do is populate our form values. So an easy way to populate all the fields, if we get something back from the back end, say we do a GET request and we get, say we're going to do an edit and we want to edit all of the user information, their account information, we can populate all their fields from that. So we want to create a method that can do that, and it's going to be very easy. We're just going to say populate form values, and we're going to pass in vals there, and then we're going to do our const new state is equal to this dot fields. And then what we're going to do here is do a for const key of object dot entries again of this dot fields. Whoa, why is it caps lock on? This dot fields. And we're going to say if vals dot has own property of key. And then what we want to do is say new state key dot value is equal to vals key. Okay, so if we pass in an object, let's say it came back from the back end and it looked like this. Let's just say const vals is equal to, and it looked like email, and then it had Curtis at freeskills.com in it. We could pass that into this function and it would update our form fields value with that. The last thing we need to do is actually update the state by setting our state completely equal to the new object that we've manipulated, because we don't want to manipulate state directly. So we're going to say this dot set fields, and we'll set that equal to dot 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 new state. So you can kind of see a pattern here, at least the way I'm doing it. And that's it, guys. We will be able to get stuff back from the back end and test it. Now, if we did want to go ahead and test this, we could, let's just go ahead and set this up. Let's do a form dot populate form values. And what I'm going to do is just pass in email free skills. I'll just leave it at that. It's going to be a problem, but that's fine. I'll save it. We'll refresh. Got a problem. Yeah, dang it. This is why I hate functional React. It's basically running this every time it tries to re-render. And it's going to re-render every time because of this field block thing. So we can't call this directly from here. Instead, what we can do though is we can, we'll just call it, let's call this in our constructor here for our form, and we'll just say this dot populate form values, and we'll just do email, and we'll say curtis@freeskills.com. And if I refresh now, it's still a problem. Gosh dang it. Well, you know what? This isn't a pattern you would normally do anyway. This is this would be a problem. So I can't show you this right now, but later when we do use this function, or we make use of this function, I'll show you how it works without breaking or causing infinite loops or whatever. And so when we get there, we'll go back and explain that function a little bit. All right, so now we have a form that we can use on any of our components that need forms. We have a form object, and we can update these and hit login, and it clears out any errors, and now we get our response echoed to the console here. And if I hit login again, we have an error. I can hit this as many times. You can see it clears those, and each time I do this, after it clears that, it's actually doing another call to the database. But it won't let us do calls before it gets a response back because it sets that disabled there. It's going to happen super fast here because of I'm just on a local machine. But all right, so I think that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment, like, subscribe. This form is going to be super helpful for us going forward. In the next video, I think what we'll do is we'll style up our actual login form, and we're going to start talking about a concept called context. Context is going to allow us to store values and pass them around in React in a very sane way, so that we don't have to pass everything down through props. And then when we do that, we're going to be able to actually set up our login, and we'll be able to redirect our users based upon if they're logged in or not to a login form or a register form. So we'll probably handle that in the next few videos. All right, guys. Well, with that, I love you guys. I hope you guys are learning a lot, and I hope you are enjoying this so far. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.